a WikiVidi documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Cher. Cher is an American singer and actress, commonly referred to by the media as the goddess of pop. She has been described as embodying female autonomy in a male-dominated industry. She is known for her distinctive contralto singing voice and for having worked in numerous areas of entertainment, as well as adopting a variety of styles and appearances during her 6-decade-long career. Cher gained popularity in 1965 as one half of the folk rock husband-wife duo Sonny and Cher after their song, I Got You Babe, reached #1 on the American and British charts. By the end of 1967, they had sold 40 million records worldwide and had become, according to Time magazine, rock's it couple. She began her solo career simultaneously, releasing in 1966 her first million-seller song, Bang Bang. She became a television personality in the 1970s with her shows The Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour, watched by over 30 million viewers weekly during its 3-year run, and Cher. She emerged as a fashion trendsetter by wearing elaborate outfits on her television shows. While working on television, Cher established herself as a solo artist with the U.S. Billboard Hot 100 chart-topping singles, Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves, Half-Breed, and Dark Lady. After her divorce from Sonny Bono in 1975, she launched a comeback in 1979 with the disco album Take Me Home, and earned $300,000 a week for her 1980-1982 concert residency in Las Vegas. In 1982, Cher made her Broadway debut in the play Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, and starred in its film adaptation. She subsequently earned critical acclaim for her performances in films such as Silkwood, Mask, and Moonstruck, for which she won the Academy Award for Best Actress. She then revived her musical career by recording the rock-inflected albums Cher, Heart of Stone, and Love Hurts, all of which yielded several successful singles. Cher reached a new commercial peak in 1998 with the album Believe, whose title track became the biggest-selling single of all time by a female artist in the UK. It features the pioneering use of auto-tune, also known as the Cher effect. Her 2002-2005 Living Proof, the farewell tour, became one of the highest-grossing concert tours of all time, earning $250 million. In 2008, she signed a $180 million deal to headline the Coliseum at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas for 3 years. In 2018, Cher returned to film for her first on-screen role since 2010's Burlesque, starring in the romantic musical comedy film Mamma Mia! Here We Go Again. Inspired by the film, the album Dancing Queen debuted at #3 on the Billboard 200. Tying with 2013's Closer to the Truth for Cher's highest-charting solo album in the US. Cher has won a Grammy Award, an Emmy Award, an Academy Award, 3 Golden Globe Awards, a Cannes Film Festival Award, a special CFDA Fashion Award, and a Kennedy Center Honors Prize, among several other honors. She has sold 100 million records worldwide to date, becoming one of the best-selling music artists in history. She is the only artist to date to have a #1 single on a Billboard chart in each decade from the 1960s to the 2010s. Outside of her music and acting, she is noted for her political views, philanthropic endeavors, and social activism, including LGBT rights and HIV/AIDS prevention. 1946-1961, Early life. Cher was born Sherilyn Sarkeesian in El Centro, California, on May 20, 1946. Her father, John Sarkeesian, was an Armenian-American truck driver with drug and gambling problems. Her mother, Georgia Holt, was an occasional model and bit-part actress who claimed Irish, English, German, and Cherokee ancestry. Cher's father was rarely home when she was an infant, and her parents divorced when Cher was 10 months old. Her mother later married actor John Southall, with whom she had another daughter, Jordan, Cher's half-sister. Now living in Los Angeles, Cher's mother began acting while working as a waitress. She changed her name to Georgia Holt and played minor roles in films and on television. Holt also secured acting parts for her daughters as extras on television shows like The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, Her mother's relationship with Southall ended when Cher was 9 years old, but she considers him her father and remembers him as a good-natured man who turned belligerent when he drank too much. Holt remarried and divorced several more times, and she moved her family around the country. They often had little money, and Cher recounted having had to use rubber bands to hold her shoes together. At one point, her mother left Cher at an orphanage for several weeks. Although they met every day, both found the experience traumatic. When Cher was in 5th grade, she produced a performance of the musical Oklahoma for her teacher and class. She organized a group of girls, directing and choreographing their dance routines. Unable to convince boys to participate, she acted the male roles and sang their songs. By age 9, she had developed an unusually low voice. Fascinated by film stars, Cher's role model was Audrey Hepburn, particularly due to her role in the 1961 film Breakfast at Tiffany's. Cher began to take after the unconventional outfits and behavior of Hepburn's character. She was disappointed by the absence of dark-haired Hollywood actresses whom she could emulate. She had wanted to be famous since childhood, but felt unattractive and untalented, later commenting, "I couldn't think of anything that I could do. I didn't think I'd be a singer or dancer. I just thought, well, I'll be famous. That was my goal." In 1961, Holt married bank manager Gilbert LaPierre, who adopted Cher and Jordan, and enrolled them at Montclair College Preparatory School, a private school in Encino, whose students were mostly from affluent families. The school's upper-class environment presented a challenge for Cher. Biographer Connie Berman wrote, "She stood out from the others in both her striking appearance and outgoing personality." A former classmate commented, "I'll never forget seeing Cher for the first time. She was so special. She was like a movie star, right then and there. She said she was going to be a movie star and we knew she would." Despite not being an excellent student, Cher was intelligent and creative, according to Berman. She earned high grades, excelling in French and English classes. As an adult, she discovered that she had dyslexia. Cher's unconventional behavior stood out. She performed songs for students during the lunch hours and surprised peers when she wore a midriff-bearing top. She later recalled, "I was never really in school. I was always thinking about when I was grown up and famous." 1962-1965, solo career breakthrough. At age 16, Cher dropped out of school, left her mother's house, and moved to Los Angeles with a friend. She took acting classes and worked to support herself, dancing in small clubs along Hollywood's Sunset Strip, and introducing herself to performers, managers, and agents. According to Berman, Cher did not hesitate to approach anyone she thought could help her get a break, make a new contact, or get an audition. Cher met performer Sonny Bono in November 1962 when he was working for record producer Phil Spector. Cher's friend moved out, and Cher accepted Sonny's offer to be his housekeeper. Sonny introduced Cher to Spector, who used her as a backup singer on many recordings, including The Ronettes, Be My Baby, and The Righteous Brothers, You've Lost That Loving Feelin'. Spector produced her first single, the commercially unsuccessful Ringo, I Love You, which Cher recorded under the name Bonnie Jo Mason. Cher and Sonny became close friends, eventual lovers, and performed their own unofficial wedding ceremony in a hotel room in Tijuana, Mexico, on October 27, 1964. Although Sonny had wanted to launch Cher as a solo artist, she encouraged him to perform with her, because she suffered from stage fright, and he began joining her on stage, singing the harmonies. Cher disguised her nervousness by looking at Sonny. She later commented that she sang to the people through him. In late 1964, they merged as a duo called Caesar and Cleo, releasing the poorly received singles, Do You Wanna Dance?, Love Is Strange, and Let the Good Times Roll. Cher signed with Liberty Records' Imperial imprint in the end of 1964, and Sonny became her producer. The single, Dream Baby, released under the name Sherilyn, received airplay in Los Angeles. Encouraged by Imperial, Cher worked with Sonny on her second solo single on the label, a cover version of Bob Dylan's All I Really Want to Do, which peaked at number 15 on the US Billboard Hot 100 in 1965. Meanwhile, the Byrds had released their own version of the same song. When competition on the singles charts started between Cher and the Byrds, the group's record label began to promote the B-side of the Byrds single. Roger McGuinn of the Byrds commented, "We love the Cher version. We didn't want to hassle, so we just turned our record over." Cher's debut album, All I Really Want to Do, reached number 16 on the Billboard 200. It was later described by AllMusic's Tim Sender as one of the stronger folk-pop records of the era. 1965-1967, Sonny and Cher's rise to pop stardom. In early 1965, Caesar and Cleo began calling themselves Sonny and Cher. Following the recording of I Got You Babe, they traveled to England in July 1965 at the Rolling Stones' advice. Cher recalled, "They had told us that Americans just didn't get us and that if we were going to make it big, we were going to have to go to England." According to writer Cynthia Wilson, English newspaper photographers showed up when Sand were thrown out of the London Hilton because of their outfits. The night they arrived, literally overnight, they were stars. London went gaga for the heretofore unseen Sand look, which was neither mod nor rocker. I Got You Babe reached number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and became, according to AllMusic's Bruce Eder, one of the biggest-selling and most beloved pop/rock hits of the mid-60s. Rolling Stone listed it among the 500 greatest songs of all time in 2003, as the song knocked the Beatles off the top of the British charts. English teenagers began to emulate Sonny and Cher's fashion style, such as bell-bottoms, striped pants, ruffled shirts, industrial zippers and fur vests. Upon their return to the US, the duo made several appearances on the teen pop showcases Hullabaloo and Shindig, and completed a tour of some of the largest arenas in the US. Their shows attracted Cher lookalikes, girls who were ironing their hair straight and dyeing it black, to go with their vests and bell-bottoms. Cher expanded her creative range by designing a clothing line. Sonny and Cher's first album, Look at Us, released for the Atco Records division of Atlantic Records, spent 8 weeks at number 2 on the Billboard 200, behind the Beatles' Help. Their material became popular, and the duo successfully competed with the dominant British Invasion and Motown sounds of the era. Sonny and Cher charted 10 Billboard Top 40 singles between 1965 and 1972, including 5 top 10 singles: I Got You Babe, Baby Don't Go, The Beat Goes On, All I Ever Need Is You, and A Cowboy's Work Is Never Done. At one point, they had 5 songs in the top 50 at the same time, a feat equaled only by the Beatles and Elvis Presley. By the end of 1967, they had sold 40 million records worldwide and had become, according to Time magazine's Genia Belafanti, rock's it couple. Cher's following releases kept her solo career fully competitive with her work with Sonny. The Sonny side of Cher features Bang Bang, which reached number 2 in America and became her first million-seller solo single. Cher, also released in 1966, contains the Burt Bacharach and Hal David composition, Alfie, which was added to the credits of the American version of the 1966 film of the same name, and became the first stateside version of the popular song. With Love, Cher includes songs described by biographer Mark Bago as little soap opera stories set to rock music, such as the US Top 10 single, You Better Sit Down Kids. 1967-1970, Backlash from the Younger Generation, First Marriage. By the end of the 1960s, Sonny and Cher's music had ceased to chart. According to Berman, the heavy, loud sound of groups like Jefferson Airplane and Cream made the folk rock music of Sonny and Cher seem too bland. Cher later said, "I love the new sound of Led Zeppelin, Eric Clapton, the electric guitar-oriented bands. Left to myself, I would have changed with the times, because the music really turned me on. But Sonny didn't like it, and that was that." Their monogamous lifestyle during the period of the sexual revolution and the anti-drug position they adopted at the height of the drug culture lost them popularity among American youths. According to Bago, in spite of their revolutionary unisex clothes, Sonny and Cher were quite square when it came to sex and drugs. In an attempt to recapture their young audience, The duo produced and starred in the film Good Times, which was commercially unsuccessful. Cher's next album, Backstage, in which she runs in diverse musical directions, including Brazilian jazz and anti-war protest settings, was not a commercial success. In 1969, she was dropped from Imperial Records. Sonny and Cher had been dropped from Atco. However, the label wanted to sign Cher for a solo album. 3614 Jackson Highway was recorded without the guidance of Sonny and incorporates experiments in soul music. AllMusic's Mark Deming proclaimed it the finest album of her career. Displeased with the 3614 Jackson Highway album, Sonny prevented Cher from releasing more recordings for Atco. Meanwhile, Sonny dated others, and by the end of the 1960s their relationship had begun to unravel. According to People magazine, Sonny tried desperately to win her back, telling her he wanted to marry and start a family. They officially married after she gave birth on March 4, 1969, to Chastity Bono. The duo spent $500,000 and mortgaged their home to make the film Chastity. Written and directed by Sonny, who did not appear in the movie, it tells the story of a young woman, played by Cher, searching for the meaning of life. The art film failed commercially, putting the couple $190,000 in debt with back taxes. However, some critics noted that Cher showed signs of acting potential. Q magazine wrote, "Cher has a marvelous quality that often makes you forget the lines you are hearing." At the lowest point of their career, the duo put together a nightclub routine that relied on a more adult approach to sound and style. According to writer Cintra Wilson, their lounge act was so depressing, people started heckling them. Then Cher started heckling back. Sonny reprimanded her. Then she'd heckle Sonny. The heckling became a highlight of the act and attracted viewers. Television executives took note, and the couple began making guest appearances on primetime shows, in which they presented a new, sophisticated, and mature image. Cher adopted alluring, low-cut gowns that became her signature outfits. 1974, television career breakthrough, first musical comeback. CBS head of programming Fred Silverman offered Sonny and Cher their own television program after he noticed them as guest hosts on The Merv Griffin Show in 1971. The Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour premiered as a summer replacement series on August 1, 1971, and had 6 episodes. Because it was a ratings success, the couple returned that December with a full-time show. Watched by more than 30 million viewers weekly during its 3-year run, the Sonny and Cher Comedy Hour was praised for the comedic timing, and deadpan Cher mocked Sonny about his looks and short stature. According to Berman, they exuded an aura of warmth, playfulness, and caring that only enhanced their appeal. Viewers were further enchanted when a young Chastity also appeared on the show. They seemed like a perfect family. Cher honed her acting skills in sketch comedy roles such as the brash housewife Laverne, the sardonic waitress Rosa, and historical vamps, including Cleopatra and Miss Sadie Thompson. The Bob Mackie-designed clothing Cher wore was part of the show's attraction, and her style influenced the fashion trends of the 1970s. In 1971, Sonny and Cher signed with the Cap Records division of MCA Records, and Cher released the single, Classified 1A, in which she sings from the point of view of a soldier who bleeds to death in Vietnam. Written by Sonny, who felt that her first solo single on the label had to be poignant and topical, the song was rejected by radio station programmers as uncommercial. Since Sonny's first attempts at reviving their recording career as a duo had also been unsuccessful, Cap Records recruited Snuff Garrett to work with them. He produced Cher's first US solo #1 single, Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves, which proved that Garrett knew more about Cher's voice and her persona as a singer than Sonny did, writes Bago. Billboard called it one of the 20th century's greatest songs. It was featured on the 1971 album Cher, which was certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America. Its second single, The Way of Love, reached number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and established Cher's more confident image as a recording artist. In 1972, Cher released the all-ballad set Foxy Lady, demonstrating the evolution of her vocal abilities, according to Bego. Following the release of the album, Garrett quit as producer after disagreeing with Sonny about the kind of material Cher should record. At Sonny's insistence, in 1973 Cher released an album of standards called Bittersweet White Light, which was commercially unsuccessful. That year, lyricist Mary Dean brought Garrett, Half-Breed, a song about the daughter of a Cherokee mother and a white father, that she had written especially for Cher. Although Garrett did not have Cher as a client at the time, he was convinced that it's a smash for Cher and for nobody else, so he held the song for months until he got Cher back. Half-Breed was featured on the album of the same name and became Cher's second US solo #1 single. Both the album and the single were certified gold by the RIAA. Cher's third US solo #1 single was Dark Lady, in 1974, from the namesake album. Later that year, she released a greatest hits album that, according to Billboard magazine, proved her to be one of the most consistent hitmakers of the past 5 years, as well as a proven superstar who always sells records. Between 1971 and 1973, Sonny and Cher's recording career was revived with 4 albums released under Cap Records and MCA Records: Sonny and Cher Live, All I Ever Need Is You, Mama Was a Rock and Roll Singer, Papa Used to Write All Her Songs, and Live in Las Vegas Volume 2. Cher later commented on this period, "I could do a whole album in 3 days. We were on the road, and we were doing the Sonny and Cher show." Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?